sings stories that feel like ancient wisdom wrapped in modern poetry. Her voice, a blend of folk, alternative R&B, and something entirely celestial, doesn't just fill rooms, it fills hearts with questions and answers about purpose, love, and identity. Through her masterful production, soul-stirring lyrics, and ethereal vocals, she weaves tapestry of sound that feel both timeless, personal, intimate, and revolutionary. Here's a deeper look at the music revolutionary. She's indeed the original, and Mereba is back. With over 1.4 million monthly Spotify listeners, the visionary, songstress, icon returns. After a 6-year hiatus from her last studio album and becoming a mother, the Grammy-nominated artist is back with her most introspective album to date, The Breeze Grew a Fire. I am honored to be in conversation today with writer, producer, and the architect of new musical consciousness, Mereba.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Amazing. I love it.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm honored to be in conversation with you. Your music has always felt so intimate, like intimate conversations with the soul, conversations that started in your room listening to the Bodyguard album by the iconic Whitney Houston.
Yes.
And you've said that music at that point kind of felt like an island that you were kind of lured to. And you were in your room on this island in your happy place, listening to these melodies and verses that really only lived in your head and in your world, that only you may have understood at that time and that lived in your world. I want to talk about your album. I mean, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm so glad it's out.
What has it been like seeing younger you in your room, listening to all of the greats, and here you are paving your own path?
It feels I'm very proud of her. I'm very proud of that little girl. She definitely was very ambitious, but I think deeper than the ambition and the kind of hustle of it, she was just a very sensitive soul that cared a lot about the world and cared a lot about the people that she loved. And so I think that she's proud, and I'm proud of her for starting my journey and for being so focused and so intentional at a young age. And it feels really good. Like I've had some surreal moments the last few weeks of reading different things that people have shared. And, you know, now that I've been in music for a little while, like people telling me, oh, I've started listening to you when I was 12 and I'm 19 now. And you got me through like that age that I needed music so much. And I was hanging on to every word of my favorite artists, sitting in my room in high school and listening to people. And it's kind of surreal to be an artist that gives people that experience now. So it's really those little things for me that like live inside me, echo inside of me for a while, that give me the inspiration to keep going and keep searching, you know?
I love that. And to hear the responses and how people have received your music over the years is so beautiful too.
Yes, agreed. I love it.
In the beginning of one of your music videos, Heart of a Child, the little girl is carrying a book. That little girl is you. You're back home in the motherland of Ethiopia.
Yes.
And the Breeze Grew a Fire, your latest project, it is seemingly a reclamation, a declaration of your younger self, your journey, purpose, love, your son, all of the beautiful things that make your path and your journey so special and unique. And you've put your authenticity on record. And through all of the industry and, you know, all the different things that artists have to deal with these days, I can only imagine the journey that you have been through to get here. And when you wrote Heart of a Child on your album, watching your music video feels like a reconnection with younger self. When I listened to the whole album, I was crying, I swear. Watching the videos, reading your lyrics, I was like, I feel this. I feel this, and I'm sure you just it's been such a gift to the world. And I'm curious, do you feel like when you were writing Heart of a Child, looking back, the younger you already had the answers inside of you? What's the first thing that you said when you got back in touch with your younger self?
That's a beautiful question. I will say that that song has an interesting story behind it because Heart of a Child is actually a song that I wrote years and years ago. I actually wrote it, and I find it really funny because it's such a testament to the way we think of like time and aging. Because when I was 23, I thought I was old. I thought that life was over for me. I was like, oh, I haven't made it yet. I guess it's curtains for me. And that was around the time that I wrote Heart of a Child. Actually, was that age, and it was like that post college sort of like, what do I do with my life now? And like time is speeding, and I just want to get back to that little girl in my room that was so passionate and didn't care about anything but this thing. And as I was making The Breeze Grew a Fire, that song popped back into my mind because it was almost like that younger version of me wrote that song for this version of me. Like, she actually wrote that song for the me that has since become a mother and has actually, put my music out and gotten to travel the world and have like fans and supporters now, and all of these things that younger version of me wanted. A lot of them have happened, and now I'm on the other side, and I'm like, okay, now I actually miss my inner child. Then if I can, like, looking back on me as a 23-year-old, I'm like, no, she was still pretty childish. She was still pretty childlike. But it almost feels like it was just a gift to my future self. And so when I remembered the song, I went and I listened to it, and I changed maybe like 2 lines of the song, but for the most part, it's the same song that I wrote back then. And so it's an interesting one because all of the songs on the album were written after that one, but it's the one about getting old and and feeling like life is coming to a close at age 23.
Do you feel like that song kind of set the tone for The Breeze Grew a Fire?
I do feel like it's the song that, like, if I probably were to choose one song that sums up, the concept, I feel like that's a good one that I would put forward to sum up the concept. I do think that there are a couple other songs that to me are more of like what the sonic of the album is like, and kind of the energy, like musically, of the album. But I do think Heart of a Child is a really important one to bring it all together for sure.
It is. And as you reflect, we all have bruises from life. You don't go through life unscathed. And we have cuts. They heal, but they still linger.
Yes.
And it's part of our testimony. And yet, like you said, here you stand on the other side, victorious with the unbridled, genreless, beautiful body of work that you have created. When conceptualizing this body of work, what state were you in when you were creating all of it?
Yeah. There was a range because I would say, like, when I really locked into making an album was like fall of 2022, and then I finished it in 2024. So there were 2 years, so a lot of different range of emotions and places mind states that I was in throughout the making of it. But definitely at first it was like new motherhood and having my son. He was actually born the same day that I released my last project before this one in 2021. That was crazy because he was 2 weeks late. So I was supposed to have my baby and then release my project, but they happened on the same day. So a lot of the beginning stages of it was, adjusting to motherhood and like all of the beautiful new revelations that come from becoming a mother and looking at this being that you love more than anything. You've never felt that type of love. And also there's like what's the word? There's some sort of trepidation as well, because you now know the world that you brought the child into. You know how it works. You know its shortcomings. You know how painful it can be. So there's this feeling of like, I love you more than anything, but I also know that it's my job to equip you with like what you're going to need for this. And so I think a lot of the earlier songs that I wrote were kind of that energy. Like there's a grit to them. There's a huge thing for this album for me was like the percussion side of things and drums, and every song like has strong like drum movements, whereas some of my earlier work is like a lot more acoustic or like not really based around the drums. So every song on this one, it was inspired by this feeling of like, I have something gentle to say and I have something poignant to say, based on where I am in my life, but I need it to knock and I need it to feel like there's momentum behind it, because I was at a point in my life where I needed to kind of regain my energy as my own person and find myself again. And dancing has always been like a huge part of my personal life. I love dancing. I grew up a dancer. I don't really like implement it that much into my performances. I might experiment with it this time, but I grew up dancing, and that's always been just something that drives me as a creator, but I don't think I tapped into it as much until this album. So that was kind of where I was. Like I needed to really feel energetic and like very alive again. And so I used the music as that sort of pulse in my life. But I also have very reflective and soft and gentle revelations to put on top of those drums. So I
I
think that's
love
what.
it. I love it. I grew up dancing too, and that is definitely my first love.
I love that. I
Yeah,
love
being able to express myself again in like any type of genre with music too, it's just so powerful. The movement in your body is just so powerful.
so powerful, so
Yeah,
important.
it
Yes.
is very important. I'm like, I need to stretch more.
Yeah, same.
There is no person, no label that could ever quantify calling, your calling. And there's no algorithm that can track integrity. What does conviction look like now for you as you are a businesswoman in control of your own enterprise?
Yes. Well, I will say that it's just such an interesting marriage. Like it never ceases to kind of pull my mind in all sorts of different directions, because it's like the most sacred spiritual thing that I found as far as what I can contribute to this crazy world is my music. And the business of being an artist and participating in the music industry is not really that as much. That's an understatement. So I've definitely, over the years, I've had to grow my muscles when it comes to conviction and faith in my path, and my path being unique. I will say a huge inspiration for me is the legends that have come before me, and just kind of learning about people that inspire me, from artists that are like household names to artists that maybe never got to being household names. But as you said, like you can't really measure impact because it's individuals. There are artists who have literally changed like my brain chemistry, I feel, from their art, and it might not be something that is for every single person to understand. And I'm really driven by that idea that I'm here for what I can give. Everybody has things they can give. And the clearer that I get with what it is that I have to give, and making and putting it at like the highest possible quality, it's just kind of one of those things of like everything rises when you have that intention behind it. Like there were plenty of people before I released my debut, The Jungle's Only Way Out, that like didn't understand it or thought I should, well, you got to at least have one record on there that's going to be more easy to put next to all the other songs in R&B right now, and all of those sorts of logistical technical conversations around creativity. And I just really believed like there's no way that God brought me this far with music and with like caring about music on the level that I do for me to then relinquish all of the wisdom I've gained to follow a track that somebody else is giving me. It just felt like there was just too much cognitive dissonance with that. So it's really a muscle though. Like it's really a muscle because you have to be strong in a particular way to know that you're doing the best that you can kind of do, and you might still be an outlier. You know, you might still be someone that you might know that like you're doing the thing, but it definitely comes with surrendering like models of conventional success in the music industry, you know? Like for me, I can't say that there's anything more powerful than performing my music. Like when I'm in front of the audiences that understand what it is that I'm giving to the world on that level, like it's definitely spiritual, it's definitely transformative, and it's definitely for me it's life-changing, and it's surreal that it feels like it's that for them too. And I just think back to honestly like my time like growing up in the church and growing up in places that were like more spiritually driven, and very much a church girl. My father was very religious, and it takes me back to a place of like there's somewhere you can go where if it's done like with the right intention, like there is true healing that's taking place there. So there's just certain elements of my artistry that have resonated that are the most important parts for me, and I'm like, okay, something must be working because people are getting what I'm giving, you know? And I do think that my music requires a certain level of reflection for the listener in order to really be invested in it. And in my time just as a human being, I've learned that not everybody is that type of person. You know, not everybody goes to music to reflect on the deepest parts of their life. Some people go to music to just listen to something nice and go on about their day, or to live maybe vicariously through someone who's living a different type of life than them. But I do think that there's certain like foundational requirements to listening to my music. So long story short, I think that it's a muscle that I've grown, and the more that I step into my purpose and I see that people can pick up what I'm putting down, I'm like, I'm just going to keep going. And I don't know if I will receive my metaphorical flowers like while I'm here. I do know that whatever I give to this world will echo though. I do know that. So that just keeps me going. And honestly, as long as I can like eat and live and grow as a businesswoman, you know, always looking for growth. Like I'm not someone who really has ever craved like fame. That's not really, I really enjoy anonymity. I really enjoy my community and people and my neighbors, and I just enjoy that part of life so much. So I do think that God's working out the perfect situation for me personally, and it takes conviction to go that route for sure.
Yes. And so it is.
Yeah.
And we are picking up what you're putting down, and we're loving it. Yes. I love that you said your music, a requirement is reflection, because that's so important, especially in today's world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I think we can use a little bit more of that collectively.
Yes, truly. I think one of the songs I loved and resonated with so much on your album was Hawk. I think, but there's something intricate and delicate about memory, and it's beautiful and how it can serve us and also hurt us at times.
Yeah.
But I know you wrote the song Hawk about your beloved friend Jason. I can only imagine what a bright light he was on your journey. And how do you make space for people in your journey who take flight to enter and leave impressions after everything that you've been through? Because I know it's easy to become jaded and disenchanted by heartbreak, and we're bruised by incompetence, but here you're making beautiful art to beautiful memories.
I love that. It's definitely one of my favorite songs on the album, and he was definitely one of my favorite people, and we had a really magical, unique relationship for different reasons. He was crazy. He was a character and a half. And I've lost as a lot of us have, once you get to a certain point in life, I've lost very dearly beloved people in my life, and I haven't always, it hasn't always made it to song form. Sometimes it's too painful. Sometimes the memories are, they don't necessarily, they just make me sad, or the way that I become reflective about them maybe isn't as poetic. It's just like something that I need to sit with a bit longer. But when it came to Jason, what I loved, one of my favorite things about him is he loved to dance. So he loved dance music, like through and through. He was like at the raves and at the show, like at the DJ sets, and like he loved dancing. And when we first met in college, I was actually, you know, the term like being someone's beard. I was his beard. So I was his unrequited love, but me and him had a little understanding that, like, I don't think you really like girls, but I will hold your hand until you're ready to like admit that to the world. And he eventually did come out and like get to live in his actual truth more, but I was his like fake girlfriend. And and so we had many nights where we were dancing together, and we were just so alive together, and just, you know, feeling the energy of the music. And I just, as heartbreaking as his passing, it was very sudden, like, was, the lasting memories of my time with Jason were what Hawk is about, like, you know, just having the times of our lives. So I really do, with my music, I feel like what I'm most inspired to actually share, like release, there is always like a through line of, I wouldn't even say like beauty, but like acceptance. Like I like to, the music that I do give to the world, I have a lot of music where I'm not accepting what reality is, but what I feel is like my purpose to share is something with hope in it. Like hopefulness is important to me. So yeah, so my relationship to him and the song that came from it, to me, is like, that's as hopeful as I could get about death and, you know, loved ones taking flight. And I'm very proud of it, and I feel like he would enjoy it. At first, Hawk was like an acoustic slow song, and I literally thought of him in my head being like, this is boring. Like, I just knew that he wouldn't sit and listen to that song if he were alive. So I added the drums to it, and I was like, okay, this is now a Jason song.
I love that. You felt it. You were like, this has to adapt a little.
Yeah, this has to get some energy behind it. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that you bring up acceptance, because you've gifted such a beautiful album that flows this string of affirmations and acceptance, like you said. And I think in order to do that, sometimes we really have to be still and accept and access and kind of be awake to where we are. And again, you've released such a beautiful body of art. This album is so personal. Have you been able to accept this where it is right now and how you've gifted it to the world?
I really have. Like, I think this is my like healthiest release, where like, I mean, my last one, like I said, my son was born the same day, so that was hectic. And then the one before that, like, it's like I had been just fighting for so many years before The Jungle Is the Only Way Out. So like, you know, like there was almost really nothing that could happen that would have been enough for me at that time to be like happy and excited, because I just felt like, yeah, I felt like just like that 23-year-old that was writing Heart of a Child. I felt very late in everything that I did. I'm like, oh, I should have been released this. I should have been done that. So the level of peace that I've come to in my life, like as an individual, as a human being, definitely spilled over into the acceptance of putting out a body of work to the world, because it's the first time that I literally was just like, I just know that I made something special that I will love for my life, and I will be proud every time I come back to this album. And so I know it sounds corny and it sounds like cliche, but I just think of like one person listening to it. And if one person feels like what I feel from listening to it and having made it, like there's something, like one person is like a million tiny things inside of each person. And I I don't really like, I'm very excited for tour. I'm starting to get in the process of like planning out the tour, and I'm going to be traveling a lot this year, spreading the music around. And I'm just like really excited to connect in real life with people. But honestly, just it being out, just like being able to go to streaming and seeing that my album's out and people like are living their lives with it in it is just like enough for me at this point. It feels so good. Like it feels healing, like to just release it, honestly.
I love that because there were definitely parts of the album too where I felt healing. Like I felt healing in different areas, like the inner child, loss, grief, the journey. And I think, again, this theme also of faith, because I feel like acceptance and faith kind of comes together. In the song Spirit Guiding, you say that fear is make believe, it is not what it seems. And that was also kind of a message to your son. We learn that fear is false. You know, when you believe in source or whoever you believe in, fear is not real. And we're often trained in society to believe that fear is real. And when you kind of become grounded in whatever practice that may be for someone, you remember that fear is a falsehood.
Yeah.
And when did you kind of break the bonds of fear and become enlightened to the greatness that you and your artistry possess?
That's so interesting you bring up that exact lyric, because I would say of all the lyrics on the album, when I listen back to the album and I hear that, I'm like, it's definitely still something I'm working on. It's like I feel at that point when I wrote that song, that's how I felt. But I definitely do a dance between fear being real in my mind and fear not being real, because there are real threats, existential threats to all of us in this world. And I feel like the fear that I'm speaking to more is like the fear that you cultivate inside of yourself moving through this world that sends you so many messages about not being enough, and you have to outwork everybody around you. And it's just this very like individualistic approach to life that our society has adopted, that I think like how it manifests from individual to individual is making your life decisions based on fear. And so I was really trying to let my son know that like you are equipped with all of the tools inside that your life's design will require. That's something I can definitely say is true in my experience. And the fear that will creep in about your ability to live out your life fully is not real. Those are things that you've been conditioned to believe about yourself because it suits this society for us to not believe in ourselves. It does. It helps everybody get in line to whatever we're supposed to be getting in line for, you know? So in this sense of this album, and definitely on that song Starlight, like it's telling him that the fear that I know inevitably they will attempt to indoctrinate you with is not real. You are actually so much more powerful than the world will allow you to believe, unless you believe it inside of yourself.
That was some amazing advice that I'm taking to heart too.
Good.
Thank you. You also got this really amazing piece of advice when you were younger. You were on a train once, and this and this woman who grew up in the 1950s, she told you that the only people who tell you not to dream are the ones that let theirs die. What does it mean to have that kind of come full circle to, especially where you are now in your journey? How do you foster the breeze in yourself so that can start fires that inspire generations ahead of you? Because you are leaving a legacy right now.
Yeah. Wow. I literally got chills just thinking of that woman and her face. I can still see her face next to me on the train. And so thank you for bringing that back into my consciousness. I think that the 16-year-old me that heard her say that, it was a bar and it was really powerful at that time. but it almost was like a no-brainer. Like it was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Everybody's met, you know, an auntie or an older person that's like, you can't do that, that's not going to work out for you, you better be more responsible, whatever. Like at that time, that was what I took it as. I think now it's kind of, again, being on that other side of like, I've been an adult, for a while now, I've loved, I've lost, I've gone through these different cycles of life. And where I'm at now is a lot more focused on, like you said, like being almost like a big sister to the people that come after me, in a literal sense, like artists that are younger that come to me and, ask for advice or ask me to work with them or whatever I can do to help. I love doing that. But also there's definitely a process internally that I think you have to go through as you get older, especially as you get further into whatever it is your career is, where you have to make sure that you haven't accidentally gotten jaded, for sure. You have to check in with yourself, especially if the thing that you do is like intertwined with who you are as a person and the things that you're experiencing. Like it's not this just like I go to work and then it ends when I leave my job. It's like, okay, who am I as a person now? As a person, am I positive? Is my perspective one that's going to be productive for people? Am I hating? Is there jealousy? Is there like getting serious, having like conversations with yourself about just checking in about like, where am I at right now? What resentments am I carrying about? What am I projecting? All of those things is like you can become the person whose dreams died and who then discourages people from living theirs. It's like you might not ever think you could, but we all are capable of losing ourselves and losing that kind of tenderness inside of ourselves. Again, the world is designed in a way to make us lose it. So I would say, like, especially since my son's been born and just all of the changes that come with that and really feeling like fast track to a lot of parts of adulthood, becoming a mother, I've had to have those conversations with myself, just making sure like it's not just about you. It's not just about Mereba, the artist, and what her legacy is. As long as I've been in the game, in the music space, which is many years before I ever released a project. I was a songwriter. I was in the underground music scene in Atlanta. So I've just been in so many spaces as a musician for so many years. And it's always been about giving something to the world that only I can give, and then sparking that inspiration to people that come after me. And I was just having a conversation with somebody that I work with, and she was like, I've worked with her for a long time, and she's like, you know what, Marion, like the world, like everyone caught up. Like basically I was something that nobody understood for so long. And I knew that eventually, a Black female artist that produces her own music, or a Black female artist that has more, that yes, she's conscious, but she's also not only that, she's just the full range of artistry for a young Black woman. I knew, like being genreless, taking influences from styles of music that are not associated with Black music, like I knew that was coming. It's just that there were so many no's and so many closed doors in my faces, like for so many years, of people telling me like, yeah, you should just go and make a song like this person, whoever was the hot R&B person at that time, So to answer your question, I think it's been a process of me continuously, like in each era, just making sure that the why, that the mission, the very clear mission that I've always had with my music. Since I was that 16-year-old girl on that train, I've had the same mission with music, which is to expand what people imagine music can be and to make music that's purposeful in people's life journeys. And so I love that lady. I love her so much because she didn't have to share that. And just in sharing that, she was being the exact opposite of the thing she was warning me of. She was taking another, she was an older Black woman, and she was looking at this young Black girl, and she was warning me of this thing that happens, whether it's internally or around you. And I feel like I've just carried it with me so deeply. And when you just said it, it like unearthed this thing in me that it's like, it's like so a part of me that I forgot that at some point it was said to me. But yeah, I do hope that the future generations of musicians, but particularly like young Black girls who love music the way that I did, feel, even if it's just a tiny bit more, like feel a little bit more supported in being their authentic selves when they listen to my music. And if I do that, then that's like supreme for me.
Ooh, thank you so much for sharing that.
For sure.
That was so powerful.
Thank you.
In a few years, you will sit down with your son, your baby, your starlight, and listen to some of this music if you haven't already.
Oh, I have. He knows every song.
Okay. And that's a blessing that you've been able to sit down with your son and share
Yes.
this music.
Yes.
You've created such magic within the worlds and the artistry that exists within your mind and your heart and your spirit. And the lives you've touched, the pain that has been unearthed and then alchemized into lyrics, the stories uncovered. What do you hope that your starlight, your son, achieves in this world after absorbing your art and all of your wondery?
Well, of course, I do. I do always pray. I pray daily to just be an inspiration, a positive inspiration and influence in his life, for sure. But I think the thing that's most paramount, it kind of goes back to your question about that line about fear, is just like, I don't know where my son's journey will lead him. He is a very, very musical child. He's one of those. He's one of those children of a musician that's like already playing instruments, and he's 3. So I do foresee something musical, but I'm not trying to pressure him. But I don't know where his journey will lead. Obviously, in certain ways, I'm just a witness to his life and all the things that are going to unfold for him. And I will support him wherever it leads. But I just want him to be confident and assured that he's protected and that his life is for a reason. And I definitely pray that he continues to be. He's a very sweet child. I pray he continues to be very kind and generous and loving. He definitely is just naturally an empath, and I love that about him. But I hope that, I do think about that. I do think about him being even like an adult and listening to his mom's music and what that might be like. And there are some songs I'm like, skip over that one. But but no, I mean, for the most part, I feel like someday maybe the wisdom that I've been able to give to other people will apply to his life as he goes through it. And I feel proud of that. I feel like I've put so much of what I've learned through my path that has not always been easy into the music, and it is for other people. But like having my son now, I realize like, wow, it's almost like the best gift that I could give him. So I'm excited for him. I mean, hopefully he likes my music. Hopefully he's not one of those kids that's like, oh, it's my mom's music. But like, yeah, hopefully it resonates with him and it helps guide him on his way.
Yes, absolutely. Well, he is another gift to this world from you, so I'm sure that he's gonna reflect and feel the music for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think so too.
Mereba, I'm so honored to have spoken with you in conscious conversation. You are so multidimensional, so beautiful. Everything that is within your wondery, I'm amazed at, and I'm so grateful to have been in conversation with you. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for the amazing interview. I loved every moment of it. Thank you for your questions.